Ancient statues are considered relics of the distant past. Sometimes, however, they contain other relics such as scrolls, letters, money, and other items of historical significance. Such discoveries are often shocking, surprising, and accidental because no one probably expected to find them in the statues. Today we will talk about such situations. Don't forget to rate this video. Buddha statue. In the 90s, a Buddha statue was discovered which contained a real skeleton of a monk. Probably the monk's mummification occurred around the 10th century. His remains were later placed in a statue. Generally speaking, mummification is a hallmark of Buddhists. More specifically, we are talking about the conscious action of monks so that after death the body dries out and the mummy is formed. Such a process is undoubtedly very long and difficult. In fact, it begins 3 years before his death. First of all, monks follow a strict diet by eating food from trees, nuts, roots, bark, and fruits. Then they move on to the next stage. They stop eating, drink only water mixed with salt while meditating. In this state, after death they will be buried. Such a mummy is rare in itself. The discovery of the Buddha statue was a real shock. To be honest, this is the only known example of mummification carried out in the middle of a statue. Initially, the scientists intended to remove the body, but after analyzing the situation, they withdrew from it, all because the mummy could then fall apart. Interestingly, X-rays taken later showed that the monk's skeleton is still in perfect condition. Jesus statue. A few years ago, 2 scrolls were found hidden in the buttocks of a 240-year-old figure of Jesus in a museum in Spain. After a local worker made this strange discovery, a team of specialists removed a piece of sculpture to pull out the scrolls. As it turned out, the notes were made in 1777 by the clergyman Menes in the Cathedral of Burgo de Osma in Spain. He wrote that the statue was created by Manuel Bell, who also made similar sculptures for other cathedrals. Menes added as a curiosity that at that time local residents successfully harvested wheat, rye, oats, and barley, and also had a lot of wine. He also wrote that the village was hit by typhoid fever. They often played football and cards just to pass the time. He added that at that time King Charles III of Spain exercised power and his palace was in Madrid. The church that owned the statue had duplicate scrolls. The originals were sent to Archbishop Barrius for archiving, and the copy was returned and hidden in the statue's buttocks. Ancient Chinese statue. In 2016, Australian art historians discovered an ancient banknote in the head of a 645-year-old Chinese Buddha statuette. The banknote was the size of a standard letter and therefore larger than ordinary money. The content of the note showed that it was issued in 1377 during the reign of the first Ming Emperor. The banknote was then valued at 1 yuan. At the time, it was the equivalent of 1,000 copper coins or 28 grams of silver. This rare money is one of the earliest banknotes produced in the world. In 1371, this type of money was known almost exclusively in China. At that time, Europe continued to use coins and only very slowly passed banknotes. 300 years later, the monument was prepared for auction and then a banknote was found. None of the previous 2 sculpture owners noticed him. A little later, the banknote was also auctioned. Another Jesus statue. In 2014, a wooden statue of Jesus was renovated in Mexico, in which real human teeth were found. This statue was called the Patience of Christ. He depicted Jesus waiting for crucifixion. It is not known where the 300-year-old statue found human teeth. It is known, however, that old statues from this region of Mexico often contained real nails, teeth, and hair. A statue of baby Jesus with 2 small rabbit teeth was even found. A statue of the devil with dog teeth and several others with real human hair were also discovered. Until now, the statue with human teeth was unheard of. It is even more strange that the teeth are preserved in perfect condition. The statue's mouth was closed, so this unusual element was only hid after taking X-rays. Scientists suspect that the teeth were taken from a still-alive man who wanted to give them to the church. Julia statue. A few years ago in Verona, Italy, a bronze statuette of Juliet, Romeo's beloved Shakespeare's tragedy, Romeo and Juliet, was discovered. Hundreds of keys and love letters were found in it. Objects were discovered during the renewal of the statue before Valentine's Day in 2015. The sculpture was made in 1969 and set in Verona, because this place is considered to be Julia's hometown. Although she was a fictional character, the statue gradually lost its proper appearance because tourists rubbed its elements daily. Of course, luckily. As a result, however, cracks appeared on the surface of the sculpture. Tourists began to push love letters into the cracks. There were also many keys because lovers in love wrote their names on padlocks. Letters and keys were discovered while trying to seal cracks in the statue. Scrolls in a Buddhist statue. In May 2018, it was announced that the Bodhisattva statue was discovered at the Tōdai-ji temple in Nara, Japan. Its height was 76 centimeters and the age was about 700 years. The sculpture depicted Manjubosatsu, Bodhisattva of wisdom. Manjubosatsu is often portrayed as a lion sitting in one hand holding a holy book of Buddhism and a sword in the other. Sitting on a lion is supposed to symbolize taming the mind by a man, just as it is difficult to tame a lion. The book means knowledge, and the sword breaks ignorance and rudeness. 180 discovered objects include scrolls, relics, and other unidentified artifacts. 30 of them were found in the head of the statue and 150 in the rest of the body. Unfortunately, scientists cannot determine the content of the scrolls. They were noticed during computed tomography. However, the sculpture itself remains closed. Lion statue in 2014. A statue of the Golden Lion was discovered at the Old Capitol House in Boston. Inside it, and more specifically in the head, was a time capsule. It was found when the sculpture was taken for renovation. Interestingly, the time capsule was first noticed many years earlier in 1901. Later, however, everyone forgot about it and remembered only when the descendant of the sculptor discovered a letter written by the author of the statue himself. According to the note, the capsule was to contain newspaper clippings, photographs, and signatures, as well as several letters written by politicians and Boston residents. Now the city authorities want to put modern objects in the statues so that they can be discovered in the 22nd century. An unexpected find in the monster statue. The author of this statue, the Apennine Colossus from the late 16th century, is the famous sculptor Gimbaldna. He created a work of art with a height exceeding 10 meters, depicting a big man. Recently, however, it was established that this sculpture also has several secrets. It turns out that there are several rooms inside that make the sculpture more like a living one. For example, a special stream that brings water to the mouth of the monster, spitting it out, which the Apennine Colossus holds with his left hand. Probably, the room in the character's head was intended for a special fireplace. As soon as the fire was lit, smoke escaped from the Colossus' nostril. This is how the space inside the sculpture looks today. These are the rooms now. The model shows the plan of the entire statue. Matryoshka Statue. This statue is almost 3 meters high. Located in Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. Earlier, this sculpture was covered with plaster, which gave the impression that despite its size it was ordinary and not very useful. It is believed to have been created in India between the 13th and the 14th century. The statue arrived in Bangkok in 1801 and was exhibited in Watanaram. A little later he was transferred to Watramat. This took place in 1935. The sculpture, however, was so huge and still not very useful that it remained outside the temple for many years. Only the tin roof protected her from adverse weather conditions. Meanwhile, in 1955, the statue fell over when it was planned to move it to another temple in Bangkok. The plaster covering the sculpture cracked, revealing parts of the golden statue inside. So the workers removed the remaining plaster to reveal real 18-karat gold. The statue was made of 9 parts. The set also included a key so that they could be dismantled for transport. Historians believe that the statue was covered with a butt to hide its true value. Faced with the invasion of Burmese in the 17th century, apparently this plan worked because the invaders abandoned the statue considering it worthless. That is all for today. And which one did you like the most? Which of these masterpieces would you see with your own eyes? Write in the comments if you liked it. You can like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon to not miss interesting materials.